Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Decks Gaming, and a new video on the channel with probably my last update for the Frostblade Slayer. I'm going to move on to another character in the next couple of days because I'm back at work, so I'm not going to have time to put hours into the game every day, so I thought I'd bring out a video on my kind of final form for my character. There's been a lot of changes since the last time. If you're interested into how to craft the gear that I'm going to go through, I've just released a video for it. It will be linked in the video description. I essentially wanted to just get a lot more defenses into the build. Now, I knew that would mean I'd have to drop a fair bit of damage, but I just want to do more difficult content without being worried about dying. I've now got, probably without steel skin up, a max fizz hit of about 15, 16k, which is good enough for me. I'll go through the merc as well because a lot of what the merc wears affects the damage that we do. There's a POE in the video description where I've tried to add all of the buffs that the merc provides. Just need to bear in mind that this will be with the 50% increased unique boss life. So even though the DPS I think is about 12 to 13 million, it's going to be realistically about 8 to 9. So what we'll do is go over the gear first and the skill links. Then we'll go over the tree and the merc, talk a little bit about the build. There's going to be footage in the background from some encounters that I've done recently. Just saves me doing a map showcase. I'd rather just talk over actual footage than just have my character on screen and then do a showcase at the end. I'll let the footage roll and I'll just talk a little bit about what I wanted to achieve. I just, as I said, wanted to get some more defenses into the build. So we've rejigged some auras around, we've dropped Herald of Ice, we've got some mana reservation efficiency so that we can add in Flesh and Stone and Arctic Armor, which add a lot of damage reduction for close enemies and when you're standing still, which is the majority of the time I need the help. When I'm mapping, I'm going to be freezing everything and blowing up screens anyway, but on boss fights, I want to be stationary. Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone mean I take much less damage from that. It also means I don't really have to worry about armor at all, so I can stack more evasion into my build to not get hit. That, along with spell suppression, fortification, endurance charges, feels really, really tanky. There has been a bit of an issue figuring out how merc stuff works. What I wanted to do was get my merc's elemental weakness on hit and my mark on hit, that assassin's mark, combined on the enemy. The issue I had is, even if I give +1 curse to my mercenary and +1 curse to me, it won't curse if there's already a mark on the boss, which is really annoying. I've tested it by letting the merc curse first. I'll then cast my mark and I can see both of them are active. But once the curse falls off, the merc just never recasts that curse. So what I've had to do is get them a curse on hit ring, and that seems to work fine. So it does look like a little bit of a bugged interaction that they just don't try and apply a curse if there's already a mark or a curse on the enemy. I don't know if other people have had this same experience, but I certainly couldn't get a curse and a mark up on an enemy without having the merc have a curse on hit ring. I've completed lots and lots of juiced T16.5 maps. I'm doing rituals with giant exiles. Not had a problem at all, haven't really died. Very close to hitting level 97. I've done quite a few normal bosses without an issue. I've been farming formed rotations with ease. So it does everything I wanted the character to do. I've completed a few T17s. The bosses take a little while, but I do feel fairly safe. I've not attempted Ubers because I'm not very good at them. The damage is going to be quite low on Ubers. And unless you're someone that does Uber bosses over and over again, I think you're probably going to struggle with them. And unless you're blitzing Uber bosses really quickly, there's kind of not a lot of point running them because you're not going to make a ton of profit if it's taking you 5 minutes, for example, to kill an Uber boss. But everything else is handled absolutely fine. The only thing I haven't tried is simulacrums because I do find with a pure cold build, they're pretty nasty. I also always want to be stun immune and I want to have phasing in simulacrums because I just find you just get overwhelmed in the later phases. So let's go over the gear for the character. So we have a heat shiver with +1 maximum power charges. I doubt these are very expensive. Heat shivers are pretty cheap at the moment. You could even double corrupt these yourself if they were expensive. I've got a Syndicate Garb. I wouldn't recommend going this higher base because getting the dex was a pain. I had to sacrifice some mods on some gear. I just wanted a ton of evasion, suppression if I could get it, and then whatever else rolled on the item. I've gone melee hits have a chance to fortify, and I've gone gain a power charge every 14 seconds. This probably isn't needed because we get a power charge every time we kill a rare enemy and we get them on bosses. This was just so that I can guarantee my power charges are up if they happen to fall off. This is probably a luxury I don't need because even without power charges, I'm going to be melting enemies in a map that aren't a boss. On a boss, I get them on hit. So I could probably change this to be something that was better. The claw is double elemental. One of them needs to be cold. crit chance, hits can't be evaded, and attack speed. Luckily, I exalt slammed intelligence on this and it made my gearing much easier. The shield is avoid elemental ailments, spell suppression, life, and resistances. The amulet I've just recently crafted. Again, it's in the guide down below in the video description. I just wanted a ton of crit chance, and then anything else I could get along with life would be a bonus. I happened to roll 15% all LE res, which is really nice. More importantly, open prefix to craft damage while leeching. Now, I've anointed Whispers of Doom. There may be a better way for me to be able to apply an extra curse, but I've just anointed to make it easier. It is expensive. It's 3 gold oils, because I was just having trouble getting 2 curses or marks on an enemy when it was me and my merc. This might be changed later if I can find a better way of doing it. We've got a Taming Ring. This is amazing for the way the build's set up, because I think they have 6 to 7 different ailment types on them, which is going to be, 280% extra damage. It's insane. Got a really good chaos resistance ring, which is life, intelligence, which I need, resistances, and then non-channeling skills. I've used Fertile Catalyst on this to boost up not only the life, but just to get that extra 1 to mana cost on the skills. The gloves are life, chaos rares, damage while leeching, and attack speed. They're the important stats. This is where I had to get dexterity into the build to make sure I could run the chest piece. So I had a pair of gloves that were pretty much exactly like this, but they didn't have dex. So I had to then buy these gloves, which were 2 divines. The implicits I've gone for are Pierce, just to get better clear, and target an additional enemy, which you always need on a strike skill. The boots are just straightforward life, resistances, crafted movement speed, with action speed and elemental ailment avoidance as the implicits. I've got Stygian Vise, which is just life, resistances, and crafted LE damage. And then a pretty bad jewel, which is attack speed if you've crit recently, life, and a tiny bit of cold damage. I found this setup is a good mix of attack and defense. I've got nearly 5,000 life. When I hit level 97, I've just about hit 5,000 life, which will feel really nice. And I've also got good enough damage. And also with the fact I've got life and now I've actually got some defenses, I can stand in a lot of things that I couldn't before. I'm still running my Prismatic Tincture because it's just a massive damage boost on enemies. And then we've got a Quicksilver Flask, Jade Flask, Diamond Flask. Fairly straightforward setup. In terms of skill links, it is Frostblades, Ice Bite support, LE damage with attacks, multi-strike, increased crit damage, and awakened added cold damage. I do need to have a look to see if crit damage is the best, because I have got quite a lot of crit multi now and it gets slightly diminishing returns, but I'm pretty sure that's probably still the best gem to use. In the helmet, I've got my Whirling Blades linked to faster attacks and then just Blood Rage for extra attack speed. I don't really need it for Frenzy generation because we get it from Ice Bite support, but I like the extra attack speed. Because we're overleeching, we get a bit of regen as well. It doesn't really matter that I'm running Blood Rage. I have Summon Skitterbots, now only linked to Bone Chill because I don't have the mana to link it up to anything else. I've got Flesh and Stone, always in Sand Stance to give me a better damage reduction from nearby enemies. Got Flame Dash, just in case I get something like Grasping Vines on me. And then we've got Arctic Armor. Again, when I'm in danger is when I'm standing still. Arctic Armor just gives me a nice buff. I've got Automation linked to more duration and Steel Skin. And then in the boots, we've got Assassin's Mark, Life Tap, Mark on Hit, and then just an Enduring Cry to get Endurance Charge on bosses. I won't go too much over the tree because it's all in a POB. I just want to point out a couple of important things. Firstly, we are using a Rune Graft of Treachery. These essentially give you 15% more reservation efficiency of skills, but auras from your skills that affect allies affect enemies. None of these skills that I run will affect enemies. They all affect just me, so I can run this without danger of giving loads of stuff to enemies. We've got 2 cluster jewels. One is Smite the Weak, Feed the Fury, and Fuel the Fight. Having both the leech nodes means I don't need any leech on the tree. And then in this one, we've just got Smite the Weak and Feed the Fury. In terms of jewels, I have got a couple of mana reservation jewels. I don't need them now, but I did at the time because I was really, really low on mana. I was about 70 mana and I was starting to run out because you end up attacking so quickly. But in terms of your jewels, you want as much crit multi and life as you can get. It's as simple as that. We're running an Ancestral Vision so that I can cap my ailment avoidance because of my high spell suppression. We have a Lethal Pride. It's not an amazing one. It's basically got 1 crit multi roll, which is there. It has double damage and then it has Rage on Hit. All the other mods are junk. We have chance to gain a frenzy when you hit a marked enemy because it's our only source on bosses. And that's kind of it. There's not really much else to point out. It's a fairly straightforward Frostblade tree. In terms of Ascendancy, it's not changed. Masterful Form, Brutal Fervor, Bane of Legends, and Headsman. And that's kind of it for the character. I've got my flask set up to just use when full, so I don't need to worry about them when I'm mapping. I'll use the tincture for bosses, but that's it. Everything else just melts really, really quickly. So we'll go through the Scuffed Merc. We've got Legacy of Fury. The Scorch that it puts on enemies is really, really weak when it's on bosses. It's between like 1 to 2%, which is hardly anything. But it does give me some damage for the taming as well. I kind of had a look to see if there was a better pair of boots, but I don't think there's any that are better than this. They don't add a ton, but they're okay. This could probably be something different, but I just wanted to give my Merc a bit of damage. So giving them Prison Weave. The gloves were crafted specifically for this Merc. They apply cold exposure on hit, they intimidate on hit, and it's got some life, attack speed, and damage. The body armor I actually had dropped from a mercenary that I fought. There's nothing special, it just had tons of life and resistances on it. So I've put haste has increased aura effect because this mercenary runs haste, and then increased effect of non-curse auras. It gives me about 6% more movement speed than a normal haste and a little bit of attack speed. I've had to run Doji's Damning because I need to get an additional curse on the enemy so that they can apply one when there's already a mark. There's probably much better things to run. I just threw this on for ease of use. Then I bought pretty much one of the cheapest curse on hit rings that were on trade. It was 70 chaos, I believe. I just needed one with life and basically some fire and lightning resistance. I'm pretty sure my Merc is still just about capped. Yet they are, so I don't need to worry about resistances. As I say, this is needed because the Merc would just refuse to reapply a curse if the enemy had my mark on it, which it always will have. I tested it with a curse on hit ring and it fixed the problem. This, I've no idea, because I don't play these sort of builds, whether this is now a bit superseded. We've just gone Piscators because it's decent damage. I could probably get like a really big imbued wand so that they can do damage, or maybe get a wand that does damage and debuffs. This is an item that needs looking at. Because these are so cheap, it just made sense just to throw it on. Gale Sight is to get brittle on enemies. Even on the big bosses, they get between 1.5 to 2%. That essentially puts me to crit cap. So I don't need to worry anymore about getting more critical strike chance on my gear. When I need it on bosses, the Merc will apply brittle. And then just a shield with some attack speed. I've been trying to get a spell damage shield because it will give a lot of damage to the projectile skills that the Merc has. I just haven't had any joy crafting one. And I kind of at this stage don't want to spend money on the Merc until my build's finished. So this is quite nice. It's life, attack speed, and some resistances with some crafted damage. And then we're just running Perkle's Toe. It's not a ton of extra damage from me, maybe 7 to 8%. I've anointed it with Ash, Frost, and Storm. This gives more early damage. It also increases the effect of non-damaging ailments to try and get that brittle up a little bit higher. In terms of Pantheons, I am ailment immune, so I don't need to run Brian King anymore. So I'm running Solar Lunaris. I still need to upgrade it all the way. This is just really good for mapping. I mean, it's good in general. You can't be hit by projectiles that chained, and the new T16.5 and T17 maps have a mod where firstly, projectiles can chain off a terrain and they can chain 3 additional times. So this is very, very nice. Reduced LE damage, 6%. If you've been hit recently is massive. And we get hit by every spell. And we have about 70% chance to evade. So we get hit fairly often. Again, this is big, big defenses. I never switch this off, even on bosses. And then it's going to be depending what content you run. I was running loads of Exile Culters earlier on, so I just put Burning Ground on. But I think for me, the one I'll use most of the time is Tukahama because it gives me more physical damage reduction when I'm stationary, which again is when I need the help. And it gives me life regen while I'm stationary. So this works really nicely combined with things like Arctic Armor. In terms of bandits, I was Alira at League start, but I no longer need her help for resistances. So I've just respect into 1 passive point. And that's kind of it. The build has gone really, really well. There's not really been a stage where I've not enjoyed it or struggled to upgrade. If you've never played a melee build before at League start, you might be surprised by kind of the squishiness because you really don't get a lot of defenses on these builds early on. Once you get Chill and Freeze going there, it feels a little bit better. You can push to endgame on fairly budget gear, and then you can start spending the money to get your character better. I've not played a ton because I've been out for 2 whole days. I've also spent an absolute age putting together some of my videos. So I imagine if you've got a few hours to play a day, you'll be able to get to where I've got once you get used to this sort of character. I'm going to lay off the videos for a couple of days so I can actually get some content done and actually farm some currency. And then we'll work on a second build. It's definitely going to be one of the new skills. I just don't know what skill I want to run yet. That's kind of it for the video. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.